Hi there, bored people, inside stayers and YouTube watchers. I've got a little bit something to play with. I've got a packet from Made in China. It is a SQA58106H and a barcode and nothing else around. It's a nice discreet package, like from a sex toy shop, but it's not a sex toy. It's a camera. And the first thing we find is CD-ROM, which I will not put in my computer. Firstly, because I don't have a CD-ROM drive right now, and who knows what's on this. Maybe user manual can be found online, isn't worth to download because, well, it's not the best user manual you can find. Then we have power supply. I already changed that for a European version. It was an American plug. Doesn't help me a lot. It's 12 volt and 1 amp. So any 12 volt 1 amp power supply with a plug like this one will work. Then we get a chunky USB cable with an USB A and B type plug. You can also power the camera with that one. Then we have, holy moly, a remote control with a battery inside, a 2025. Why not a 2035? Because 2035 I have tons and tons from old mainboards. Well, maybe a 2035 will fit too. I think that's a little bit loose. Maybe the bigger one goes in too. Then we have two little white boxes with a lens. A lens. Okay, with a cap that doesn't fit. But we have to unscrew that cap anyway. What's in the second box? I'm pretty sure we have some adapters. And I already changed that adapter to a different size. So normally we have 30.5 millimeters, that's this size here, and that one was 30 millimeters, but now it's 25 because that's the size of the eyepieces of my microscope. And now you know where that camera goes. And of course we have the camera itself. Has a lot of buttons, TF card with, normally there is no card with it, so I already installed one. HDMI port, that is important to know because you need a HDMI monitor to make that camera properly work. And of course there's another cover that protects the sensor inside. They say it's a Panasonic chip. Maybe we have the time to look inside. Shouldn't be too complicated. You know what? Okay, and of course that's the lens. Goes in like this. And we slide the adapter over that. There is a rubber O-ring here that holds everything together. And that goes into my microscope. But hey, don't turn it on, take it apart. Doo-doo-doo. Ooh, nice solder job here. We have a big chip there. USB. Okay. That's the case. Well, there is a board for the CCD sensor. There is another board with the Hayear chip, and that's also the manufacturer of the entire camera. It has a connector, but the boards are soldered, so they can't go loose. Well, it's more or less the one big chip. There is, I think that's a DC converter here with the coil and the diode. That's a typical DC converter. 12 volt input, 5 volt input through the USB. Yeah, that's about what it is. Some other DC converters. Okay, so there is a little battery to store the setup, all the information you set up in the menu here. Maybe it's also a super capacitor. Can't see that, there is no marking on it. Okay, so that's the inside. Not extremely interesting. Okay, I think I have to tighten this posts here a little bit. Except these are not okay. So two posts are going in, the others are sticking out, but I think that doesn't matter. Okay, let's screw it together. Okay, now it's in. Okay, that's the remote sensor. That's something I wondered what that could be. LED, okay. And that's my Zeiss OPMI-1 operation or surgery microscope, which I bought for not so much money. And if you find one of these, I would highly recommend to buy it, because it's a super microscope. It was once about $10,000 when it was new. You can get it for a couple of hundred today. You get it with a nice stand. You probably need it, maybe not, but the microscope itself, it's stereo, binocular. You can see 3D, of course, but not with my camera here, because I only have one camera, so we only see 2D. And the modified adapter seems to fit. So that's how it looks now. My first idea was to have the camera on one eyepiece and use the other one to look through, but it turned out that doesn't work, because the camera and the eyepiece have different focus levels. So for the camera I need to raise the entire microscope higher, and then this one is blurred. Or if I have a sharp picture here, the camera doesn't see anything. So I have to decide which one I need. But for demonstrations I will use the camera, and for repair works I will use two eyepieces without the camera, of course. And as I already said, you have USB and HDMI. You can use the USB to transmit pictures to your PC or whatever you have, but I had a little bit trouble with that. I don't know if it's a problem with my Mac and VLC player, but I got about 5 seconds of image, then I got a frozen image for another 5 seconds, and then again 5 seconds of image, frozen 5 seconds, and so on. And the other downside of the USB output is you don't see the menu here. You only see that when you connect the HDMI output, or maybe I'm doing something wrong, I don't know, but I recommend to have at least a small screen. I already ordered one, a 7 or 10 inch screen for the HDMI as a control monitor. And then of course you can record movie and still images to the micro SD card here. And yeah, that's how it works. Let's connect it to the screen. And this is what you get when you turn the camera on. So that's already the magnified image of the microscope. That's the object I'm looking at. It's a grayscale white balance adjustment card. And of course that looks pretty big here on the microscope. And of course we can set the magnification factor a little bit higher. I have to move the microscope down. Okay, seems the picture is not too bad. Let me adjust that a little bit. So, and then we go to full magnification. Okay, so that's the picture from that microscope camera. Okay, so let's check the setup. There is a menu button and we are now in the still mode, as you can see right here. That's still video mode or photo mode. We have lines, and you know what? I can use the remote control. There is a crosshair setting with some more or less random numbers, because you can't say what scale it is because it depends on your microscope. Maybe it works if you use an original Hayear microscope. But here, well, let me see. So that's, for example, a 0.5 millimeter hole, and 0.5 millimeter in this setup here is about difficult to position. Yeah, it's 80, whatever. So no, 9, so that's 1 millimeter, and that is 160, yeah, a little bit less. Okay, whatever. So we have a crosshair, we cannot change the numbers. Maybe we can change it if we use the right software, but since I have a Mac, there is certainly no software around for that. So I turn that off. Then we have lines, and that creates some lines in green, red, blue and white and black. I have no idea what these lines are, but for example the white line can be moved. 2 lines, 3 lines, no. So the remote control is also pretty rubbish. Well, it works, but sometimes it does exactly the opposite of what you want. So down, yes, thank you. Vertical, yes. And then you can move the white line which is white because it's set to white, over that grid in I don't know, pixel steps or something. So maybe you can use that to measure something, but only if you know exactly what your viewing ratio or magnification factor is. Okay, anyway, I don't want any lines. Okay, let's go back. So that's the line set. Image size 60 megapixels. Okay, there is no other setting for that. Picture scale 16:9, 4:3. Okay. Mirror contrast, so it has nothing to do with contrast, but you can mirror or flip your image vertically, horizontally, or both. That's probably useful if you have a strange microscope that turns the picture upside down or sideways or whatever. Exposure, that's something that works. We can go here, press OK, and the exposure, the picture brightness goes down, and I think that's not a bad value. Maybe you have to adjust that if you're shooting very bright metallic surfaces like this one, which has here a little bit of overexposure. Let's see if we can do that a little bit better. Yeah, a little bit. How much? I find the numbers are funny. -5/3 or -2, I don't know. Maybe that's the right way to number this exposure factor, so that's what I like. Okay, then menu. White balance, that's something I had to set it to manual, because I had to adjust it for the weird microscope lamp here, which is an LED, and that's normally you set that to yes, if you have fluorescent light, tungsten light, cloudy day, it's the usual settings that you have on a digital camera. So I think the chip inside is more or less from a standard digital camera, probably. Color, sorry, wrong button. Oh yes, color, black and white and sepia. Also some effects from video cameras. Language, of course, you can have English, Chinese, Japanese, Deutsch, but I prefer English because the translations sometimes are a little bit weird. 50 or 60 Hertz. Well, maybe that's some flicker suppression. Don't know exactly. I mean, in the still image setting, the hertz doesn't make much sense except for the light. Yeah, that's probably to reduce flickering. Date and time, of course. Yes, we know how that works. And format the SD card. We can do that because it's not really something, and that's something you should do with a new card. Okay. Well, maybe it has formatted, maybe not. Then we leave the menu, we press the mode button. There is a mode button on the remote control and also on the camera itself. And you see the little symbol here. We are now in video mode, and if we press the menu, we get the video menu. Video resolution, you can go up to 2.7K at 50 frames or 1080 at 60 frames, 720 at 120 frames. So I think I'll leave it on the highest possible resolution. I don't need so many frames, that's not the problem, and if I don't like it, I can still change it. Okay. Loop recording, that's interesting. That's probably something that comes from dash cams. So you can say off 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That means it will record 10 minutes and then starts to overwrite the oldest minutes with new minutes, and you always have 10 minutes. I don't know where you need that on a microscope camera, but it has it. Timestamp on or off. Where is the timestamp? I can't see it. Let's turn it off. I don't want that anyway. Picture scale, yes, that's about the same as on the still image. Mirror and contrast, yes. Explosion, no. Exposure. And state and time, yes, that's all the same as on the still image menu. Okay, so I already told you when you press the mode, there is also a playback. So first of all, let's try to set it to the photo. I think that's it, probably, yes. We can take a picture with the remote control or directly on the camera, but in this case I prefer the remote control. Yes, picture goes black for a second. I think we have stored now something. Let's try this. Still picture. Yes. Okay. And then we switch to video mode. We press the video record button and we have a counter. There is also the blue LED on the camera itself that starts blinking, and I'm recording this right now, probably. I hope so, it looks so. Let's stop that. And if I press the mode button again, we go into yes. Now we have some files to watch. Let me see if we can see that. Yes, looks like the moment before. How can I get back? Oh, that's the next picture. Okay. And that's the video. How can I start that? Okay, now it runs backwards. Okay, now it's playing back. Yes. I'm not moving anything, that's just a playback. And it does exactly, it plays back what was recorded, so that is working. Okay. The blue LED is super bright, it's almost blinding you. Turning it off. Remove the card, and now you can put it in your PC and do whatever you want with it. And that's what I will do in the future with this microscope camera. I think you will see that a couple of times, because now I really have HD video from my microscope or with my microscope. And yeah, thanks for watching.